Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome to episode 41 of the Breaking Point podcast. We are live on Twitch. We're also after the fact on YouTube and all the audio platforms. You love to see it. Special episode today. We've got DREAL joining us from New York, recently announced as their performance coach. Lots to dive into with him, I'm sure, but also plenty else going on at the COD world. We've got this Washington spot straight up disappearing from Call of Duty. What's going on there? Florida is signing Vivid potentially. It's absolute chaos. We're going to dive into it today. Lionman maybe joining us at some point. Right now, we've got Austin EasyMac, we've got DREAL. Austin, first of all, how you doing? You mentioned the kind of a BZ tribute hairstyle you've got going on today. I think it looks good.
Yeah, just getting ready for the off season, but it's my man's Tyler's birthday, the BZ, so shout out him. Hope he's having a good day. But decided to rock the foof, the up hair so for him. So shout out Ty.
Good stuff. DREAL, how's it going? I said before, just before we went live, like congratulations on the move. Really been watching what you've been up to the last couple of years in challenges. It's a tough time for European players and talent in general. But yeah, congratulations on the spot. I know we mentioned it before, like when you might be getting to the States, but just like touch on that maybe real quick.
I just want to say thank you for having me on. Much appreciated. And yeah, it feels like it's been a long time coming without trying to come across as too arrogant. But the fact that I've landed on New York with the players and the staff that we have, it doesn't feel real at the moment. I think it's a really good opportunity for me to learn and to grow. I've got some big goals in the league, big aspirations. I want to be here for a long time, and I think the best way to do that is to keep learning from these once in a lifetime players and then go from there.
Absolutely fantastic. I think that'd be a great place to start then, really, with because I'm sure a lot of people listening aren't familiar with your history and history. I was going to say pedigree, but I kind of muddled up the two words. Like what you've done in Call of Duty in the past, because of course you competed on some relatively notable teams back in the day, like Era and Infinite Warfare champs, and the Brash esports team. I remember vividly from World War II champs when Dylan was on that squad, and there was a lot of talk about that and his potential over the coming years. Then, of course, for Black Ops 4 champs, you're a coach for the Elevate squad. It's actually pretty decent success that year. So I'd just love to hear from your perspective, like how your career kind of went. Because then, of course, after that pretty good result with Elevate at Black Ops 4 champs, franchising comes in, and then you're coaching on the European amateur side for a couple of years, trying to get a spot, which is no easy task.
Yeah, okay. So I'll begin with playing. I've been to COD Champs 2017 with, some of the French pro players, Xerox for an example. I went to the 2018 Champs with Dylan Cod, or Ravens Dylan, as you guys may know him. And then COD transitioned into 5v5. When COD transitioned into 5v5, I wasn't enjoying it. I had the self-awareness to realize maybe, okay, I'm not going to make it in COD. So what I'll do is I want to still be a part of Call of Duty. I enjoyed the analytical aspect of COD, and I'll try my hand at coaching. Got given an opportunity to work with Elevate at the end of Black Ops 4. For clarification, I wasn't with Elevate during the Pro League, only for champs, and somehow, in 3 weeks, we've managed to go from top 16 to, pushing top 8. So I think that was a big achievement. But as with coaching, as a player going into coaching, I realized I was really out of my depth. It was very difficult. It wasn't what I expected compared to competing. And so I decided to retire. Not many people knew. I had actually retired briefly, before the release of Modern Warfare. And then when that game dropped, Whalers hit me up and he said, yeah, he really needed a coach. He really wanted to work with me. And I missed coaching, I loved coaching, and that's what I did. And just for some clarification, I retired on Black Ops 4 to focus on my degree. And alongside my degree, I was doing coaching, so boxing coaching and cycling coaching. I wanted to be, an actual coach, and that came from me coaching in Black Ops 4. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't good at it, so I was determined to be better at it. So I wanted to learn how to be a better coach using boxing and cycling. And ever since for the past 2 years, that's helped me in my journey as a coach. I became the finance secretary at boxing, and then became the head of boxing, and I was learning, how to be a better coach, and then that helped me transition into COD and where I am today. You're muted.
I'm back in business. That is a fantastic story. Thank you so much for sharing that. Really great to hear how things have gone, especially throughout like getting your degree as well, right? So am I correct in you have a bachelor's in, is it biomedical science?
I do, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's
How did you handle, the degree? Because of course that's kind of where before I graduated this summer, that's kind of something I had to contend with, right? Like finishing my degree while trying to figure out how to do content and make that work. And I'm sure that because for coaching, there's, especially if you're like the sole coach for a team, which of course you will be in the challenger side, there's so much that goes into things because you got to think about like managing how you're, of course, like actually watching the gameplays and all this type of stuff, but also managing the communication within the team and any conflict there might be, also any like meta developments within the game at the pro level, the statistical side of things, like and I'm sure you kind of learn all the different facets doing the boxing and cycling stuff, but yeah, it's a tall task managing all that, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I studied biomedical science and my specialization was oncology. So I do cancer research to simply put. As for balancing, it was very difficult. I think boxing helped me stay disciplined when it came to balancing. It was a lot of sleepless nights. It did help, as weird as it is to say, COVID did really help out because everything transitioned over to online. So it was a lot easier to manage my work and to manage my placements and and then my duties as a COD coach. But it required a lot of sacrifice. It was a struggle that I wanted to do. It was a process and a struggle that I wanted to do. So I had to sacrifice some aspects, like going out and sleep sometimes. And I was really determined to try and make it work. I had the self-awareness to realize I'd never make the CDL as a coach simply from being a player. There's so many great players who can become a coach, right? If Parasite wanted to, he could be a coach tomorrow. So I realized what I needed to do if I wanted to be in the CDL and to be the best coach possible for my players is to have a different avenue, right? Is to then go from traditional sports and try and learn and understand and bring something else to it and try and help my team that way.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
I knew you from Black Ops 4. I knew you had a great mind for the game, so I definitely agree
Thank you.
that, you know, some players like they have a great mind, but like mechanically they're just not there.
Yeah.
And if you can't find a spot as an IGL, like coaching it's gonna be a really valuable commodity. And I was really happy when you finally got a big time
Thank you, Austin.
opportunity this year.
Yeah. For me, it was I had everything in my head, even as a player. I watched VODs, I knew what I wanted to do, but the thing that really stopped me from progressing was my mentality. I had a defeatist mentality. I didn't believe in myself. It was. I'm one of them who can visualize it in my head, but not implement it in the moment, or have and be able to do that. So,
How did
like,
you like how have you tried to address that, right? Because being, the fact of the matter is optimistic people tend to be more successful because they view the world in a way that, where they can visualize themselves being successful, right? So how did you kind of go about addressing that?
So, just to sort of provide a bit of context, when I one of the reasons why I retired, actually, there's a multiple reasons of why I retired. Uni was one of them. Another one was the fact that I was diagnosed with a liver issue, right? And that was really a kick up in the ass to try and change my lifestyle around. That's what got me into boxing. And with boxing, really developed and sort of changed my mentality. I've gone from a defeatist mentality to I don't care, like a really strong mental state, the best I've ever felt. I'm boxing, I'm working out, I'm eating clean, I'm staying disciplined. A combination of all these different factors really did help my mentality and really changed the way I looked at life. Also, as well, with cancer research, we take life for granted, and working with victims of cancer, right, who are coming in for treatment and listening to, the hardships that they have, it really puts a different perspective on life. It really humbles you as a person, and that also changed my view on life, my mentality, minimalism, all of that sort of stuff, and the combination of different things changed me from what I was then to what I am now, and I'm not surprised with some of the success that I've had because of it.
That's absolutely incredible to hear. I think like this is not exactly the direction I expected this podcast to go, but I think it's a really valuable one. Like there's a few things you can do that really help your mindset. Of course, like sometimes sleep has to be sacrificed for certain reasons, but a good sleep schedule is one of them. Exercise, fresh air, that type of stuff. Also, I think, like as you say, being grateful for what you have. Like every morning, I have a little book and I write down 3 things I'm grateful for before I start recording the videos. And like in a few, like I've already got a few pages of things, and sometimes they overlap because I forget that I said something before. But it's easy to find 3 things every day that just puts things in perspective, right? Because it's crazy how even though some people might be more fortunate, some people were born in really challenging circumstances in challenging countries or in a different time where things are impossible to break out of circumstances of your life. So it's kind of crazy to think how things go, and I think that can help. Put yourself in the right mindset, right? Because mindset is obviously really important.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you have any thoughts on Austin, just before we move
Yeah, I
on to
mean,
kind of how things have gone.
mindset's one of the most difficult things to really pin down, especially during COVID, because you can easily really get in your head and start getting down on yourself really quickly. So that's like one of the most challenging things to really like move past and like keep growing stronger at. It's one of the most like underrated things to develop for like players, basically anyone in the scene.
For sure. So, of course, I know you mentioned it on Twitter, DREAL, about how people are going to perceive you as just kind of like HYDRA's coach or whatever. How did you get introduced to HYDRA? Like, I guess you said that Whalers said he wanted you to be the coach for their team. Did HYDRA just kind of happen to be
No,
there?
no. This was after. Sorry, this was way after. We knew Hydra for quite a while. Anyone in the European scene knew of him for a very long time. He was running these local events for a very, very long time. We call him the French simp. And he was a player that Whalers and Brezzy really wanted. Obviously, I didn't know him personally. I knew of what he's done, and I had no issues with that to work with him.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's what I was saying. Like when you started working, I'm sure you're aware of like obviously the special talent that he had. Like, did you realize early on that kind of helping him with his English and stuff? Because I think it's interesting. A lot of European countries teach a lot of like Germans and Dutch and like they speak better English than we do, to be honest. But in France, like it's not English isn't taught as commonly. Like I think I don't know have any stats on it, but it just feels like that anecdotally. So like, did you feel like Hydra's helping him with his English would be a huge, of course it is a huge factor in getting a spot in the league. And did you like, how was your kind of thought process going into that relationship?
Yeah, my responsibility as a coach is to help him as a person and to help the team overall improve. I created a plan of action because we were really struggling to win. We would get second, third, whatever, and to really try and help us win. We didn't end up winning, by the way. We kept on getting more seconds, but one of the processes that I tried to really work on was teaching Paco English. It was an obstacle to us, getting to that next level, and I had to just do it, just to help the team improve, to help everyone improve, and then to help him as a person as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And I remember there was some talk about that he could have been picked up by Paris before New York got him. Now, of course, you can say what we like about Paris making that decision or whatever. Like, did you give him advice on what he should do in these types of situations? Like, I'm sure you have a pretty good relationship. Because I mean, it's kind of daunting, right, for a guy like that, that's super young, to like, do I go play for the French team, quote unquote, in Paris, or like fly across the pond? I'm obviously going to be across the pond anyway if you're in the CDL. But yeah, like, did he have any involvement in kind of how he made that decision, or was it not really much of a decision if Paris weren't interested and New York gave him an offer?
I have to be very careful with what I say, and it's very difficult to go in. Paris fumbled hard. Okay, let's get that clear. They messed up really badly. They had multiple opportunities to sign him before New York were even in the picture. Okay. As soon as New York were in the picture, he asked for advice. It was a no-brainer. Went with New York.
Absolutely.
Because didn't they had an opportunity to even sign him in Modern Warfare, right?
They did, but they say that, but I'm not aware of any credible conversations or anything like that. Maybe behind my back, maybe, but again,
I
they
mean,
had numerous opportunities.
I feel like if you're a foreign team like Paris and you have like this prodigy coming up who's just 18 and you're not even trying to like sign him to an academy contract or as your substitute, I just that ball was just so heavily dropped. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I don't know, like I feel like when Brandon Novus was on our podcast a couple of weeks ago, he mentioned that when he was working for Paris as an analyst, he kind of like recommended a team involving HYDRA and maybe it was like Mac and Pred or something like that. I forget
I
exactly what
think,
it was,
yeah.
something like that. That clearly never came to fruition. So I guess we can leave it there. But let's focus on the New York stuff, right? Because of course you're moving over there now. How exactly did this come about? Because I saw like some tweets that came up from you, and you were saying like ready to focus on my masters, right, and kind of call it quits with making this work in cards, which is obviously not an easy decision to make, but it felt like you were thinking, all right, maybe this is the time given the way things are gone. And then you get the offer to come in as the performance coach on the subliners, which to me is a very exciting title because that sends exactly the right messages that I think a lot of teams are missing within esports, especially. And I think your background within boxing and cycling is going to have a huge impact on that. So I think this is really promising. I wonder, like, I don't know if you can really speak too much on, because there was some strange stuff happening when Revan was obviously the coach, a head coach, and then he was gone, and then he's back, and it's like kind of tough to say what's going on. I imagine the relationship with HYDRA helps, but I'm sure there's more to it.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll address the first part of the question. I was gonna do my master's degree, and I had a job at the end. So I was at a moment in my life where it was very difficult to commit to doing another year in challenges, and then doing my master's, and then having a career after that. It really came out of the blue. I wasn't expecting anything, right? Not from London, not from whoever, none of that. And apparently last year New York were interested in me, but I wasn't aware. And then this year, I had a few calls. It went well. Then I had a call with Clayster, and that call went really well, and Clay pushed it. There was a moment where it wasn't going to happen. They were going to go into a different direction. But after speaking to Clay, and then Crim, and then Travis, and whatever, they really pushed it forward to get that sorted. As for the title, performance coach, what that basically means is I'm going to do everything COD related, as you'd expect. I am the best, in my opinion, the best challengers COD coach when it came to COD IQ. But I'll also have a hand in creating, implementing, and enforcing various team systems, cultures, values, philosophies, player development, player management, and many, many, many more, things that I'll do. And in combination with New York and other parties, they're going to help me become a better leader, a better coach, an actual coach, not just in God. So that's what that means.
Yeah, that's
It's a pretty awesome
fantastic.
title.
It is.
I
I
don't
love
think
it.
Yeah, I don't think we really have had much of that. I mean, I know Toronto has brought in like ex-Army Rangers, I think they were, to like all like team values like that, but to have like a dedicated coach that's gonna be, focusing on creating that system around the team and ability, that's something that we really haven't had, and that something I'm pretty sure New York would have benefited from last year with it.
Yeah. Speaking with the players, there was a lot of criticism given for last season on the various franchises, and my job is to prevent that. I'm not going to go into detail, so if you've seen Clayster streams, you'll have a bit of an idea of what I'm talking about. And you look at some of the franchises who haven't performed over the last two seasons. The reasons why are pretty obvious in my opinion. But it's not for me to delve into. But that's that.
Yeah, I think you touched on a load of great things as to what the kind of performance coach entails. Because the way I see it, like, I see the players. I mean, they go to bed at like 4. They're up at like, midday or whatever. Or maybe their sleep schedule's hella inconsistent. It's like, okay, how do you expect to be able to practice at an optimum level? You got to take these things into account, right? You got to take nutrition into account, diet into account. Like, what are you eating at what times a day? Like, what's like, are you eating the right types of food at this type of day to make sure your practice is optimal? Like, are you operating in your zone of maximum like concentration? Because I tend to find that what happens with me is I wake up, I do like intermittent fasting or whatever, so I eat all my food between 12 and 8. And I find that helps me a lot because in the morning I'm super dialed in. Like when I make the videos, the best work I get done it really is in the morning. Like I don't know. I feel like when you eat a meal, it slows you down or something. I don't know. Like you're digesting or something like that. I don't really understand it, but it feels like that to me anyway. So and then when I have lunch at 12, I'm just brain dead for the next 2 hours. Like I can't concentrate on anything. I can't get good work done during that period. I always struggled when I was at uni, when I do the videos in the morning, have lunch at 12, and they'd be like, okay, it's time to do uni work, and my brain just wouldn't work. I'm like, why doesn't it work as if it did in the morning? And it turns out that's just kind of the way it goes sometimes. And then in the late afternoon, you kind of pick up again. I don't know, but it's things like this that I feel like aren't even considered in COD.
Exactly.
I remember when people were talking about, or I don't know if it was a book I read or what it was, but it was about Michael Phelps's routine, that he had everything visualized down to a T on his, I think it was the 100 meter, it might have been the 100 or the 200 meter fly at the Beijing Olympics. So the race was at like, let's say 10. He got up at 6:02 or whatever, like on the dot. He ate this food at this time, and everything of that day up until the race was completely orchestrated, like in terms of the amount of like, I don't know, what he would exactly do in his warm-up routine, how many strokes he would take, and he knew down to the centimeter how many strokes he would take on each length of the race. He dives into the pool for the finals of the Olympics, and like his goggles slip off or they have a leak, and it gets worse and worse throughout the race to the point where on the final length he can barely see anything, and he's trying to obviously get to the wall. And on butterfly you need to nail the finish, otherwise it's a bit of a shambles. And but because he'd played the race over in the entire day, he played it over so many times in his head, he absolutely nailed the finish and broke the world record and won the Olympic gold. So it's things like that. I was like, damn, like this is 2008, and already that's pretty next level. Like, I don't reckon many other top athletes were doing that at the time, especially in swimming. And it's only just starting that people even consider the whole sports science angle, I think, in esports. So I think it'll be great if you can bring some of that in. I don't know if you have any comments on what I said.
I will say that esports in essence is a competition, and to optimize competitive performance, you need to think of these aspects and look at different esports as an example. Look at CS:GO, League of Legends. They're far ahead of COD, and I think COD will slowly move in that direction. That's all I want to say.
Absolutely. Do you have any thoughts on that, Austin? There's still plenty to discuss, I think.
No, yeah, I agree with you guys. So I definitely hope that in the future, like, I feel like we took a big step this year as a scene to becoming more like an actual sport where you have set times, or you're getting on, you're focusing with your team, and then after that, like a lot of the guys are learning how to detox correctly, so you're not burning out. So I think with players maximizing their physical and like the actual practice hours, the next step is maximizing your mental health, physical health, and making sure that you're at 100% going into tournaments and stuff, because stress and anxiety really takes a toll on you in matches. So having the best mindset possible and being in the best physical shape is really going to help these guys when it matters.
And I'm sure it's not physical, but because I know you, Austin, as well, have been getting into F1 a lot more lately, right? And I used to watch it back in, I want to say like 2008, 2009, 2010, like these type of years. I'd watch it with my dad, but then like during kind of the Mercedes era of just dominance, I wasn't really particularly interested. But this season I got back into it, and it kind of obviously like driving the race car for 60 laps with the incredible G-forces is very physically straining as well as mentally straining, and the amount of like weight and that they lose during a race is crazy. Like the amount of water that they lose and stuff like this. And in COD, it's obviously not the same, but at the same time, if you're playing like an 8-hour day of COD and like mentally, that's pretty tiring. And I'm sure by the end of the day, these guys are absolutely knackered. So it's things like that where you need to be at a pretty peak level of performance to make a losers bracket run, because how many times have we seen in COD history when a team makes a crazy lower bracket run, they have all the momentum, they get to the second best of 500 grand finals, and they just run out of gas? Like, it happens a lot. And maybe with some extra, I don't know, maybe with some extra preparation or thought about that, it doesn't happen, right? I don't know if you think about that, Drill.
I do agree. I think again it's a competition. It's about finding the extra 1% to be better than the other team, and all of this adds up. You know, if you can find the extra 1% in different aspects of your routine and your, you know, whatever it may be, it all adds up. You're spot on, definitely.
Good tip. So communication within the roster is probably one of the big questions going into the season, right? So last year there was obviously HyDra not being a born English speaker, like the difficulties of understanding kind of the nuances of conversations and the small talk and these type of questions. And that's one of the big questions of this year, right? Like, how much is it possible to get the max out of both HYDRA and Neptune? Because those guys on paper is one of the best SMG duos on paper in the entire game. Whether their roles perfectly work, that's another question. But it's whether the communication is going to work properly between those two that is one of the questions. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on how you might consider addressing that, or of course you worked with Paco before and know how he likes to operate. And I'm sure we're going to have a close eye on things right before, if there are any issues, like be there to step in and give advice.
It's not going to be as big of an issue as many people have claimed. That's probably the least concern at the moment for me. Regards to Paco, I think, you know, I'm going to be living with him. You know, it'll be no problem. We know what we need to do with Paco. We've identified, you know, some weaknesses, and we've already made a plan to resolve them. But again, it's not as big of an issue as many people have claimed, you know, on socials, in my opinion, with this New York team. And I'm not going to go into it. You can probably watch Clay's streams back or whatever, but there's more pressing matters that need to be dealt with before.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's kind of the other part of it, right? Like, when you're joining a team with these veterans, Clay and Crim, and I know that other players have said in the past that, and as you say, you've had conversations with the guys, which is obviously like a must anyway. But like, some players have said, like, they're not gonna respect a guy. You know, what's he really achieved? These type of questions, right? I'm sure that's kind of at least crossed the mind. Like, how do you plan, or how have you already aimed to kind of gain the respect of Clayster and Crimsix? Because these are guys who've done it all in COD, right? I'm sure they need to feel that you have an idea what you're doing before they're going to actually take some of this stuff on board. Because we've seen, you know, a big point of contention really last season was OpTic Chicago, when I was like, okay, Sender might be telling them great things in the post-game chat after the scrims, but if they're not listening to what he's saying, it's not doing any benefit. And maybe that, and you know, you can blame, if that is the case, which some people say it isn't, but if that is the case, then it's not necessarily just the players you can blame, but maybe, you know, maybe you can put some responsibility on Sender for not, you know, I guess, making himself as respectable as possible. I don't know. It's tough to argue that, but I didn't really phrase that very well. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, first I'll say I wouldn't be on New York if I don't have the basic level of respect from Clay or Crim. I wouldn't be here. Simple. You know, even if I'm Paco's coach, English tutor, whatever people say, I would not be on this team without their, you know, blessing. Okay. Second of all, I'm going to hold them accountable. I don't care what they've done. They know this. I'm not going to be scared to give my opinion, to give my thoughts, to hold them accountable where they need to be for a standard of excellence, right? That's my responsibility. And, you know, regardless whether they respect it or not, they'll truly appreciate the fact that I'm giving my life for them. You know, I'm here giving all my time and my effort to help them as people and players, and they'll respect that. Third, they'll see my discipline. They'll see how I live my life, how much work and effort I'll put in. They'll respect me through that. I'll put more work than them. I'll work as hard, if not more than them. And, you know, there's different ways you can earn that respect. Yeah, I might not be as achieved as them or accomplished as them, but, you know, I'll work as hard, or if not harder, and they'll respect that.
Let's go. That was hype.
That's all that matters. Yeah.
I was getting me gas, baby. If I was a New York fan, I'd be loving that. The chat right now, let's go. That was awesome.
Right?
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's good to hear though, right? Because I'm sure that those, because look, as I say, Clay and Crim have done it all, but they also appreciate like, and this is actually the next point on the list, so this is perfect time to talk about it. Like Crim appreciates like a heavy hand, right? Like he's kind of the guy who, you know, he can happily dish it, but he also is able to take it as well, right? And I'm sure that they, and maybe that's what some of these players feel, that maybe that they. I agree in the sense that in order to gain the respect, you kind of have to be willing to hold people accountable and not, you know, slack off or say something you wouldn't say because of the person it is. Otherwise, they're going to be like, "Oh, this guy's not telling me the truth just because name value or whatever," right? Which is obviously valuable, and that leads into the fact that a few months ago on the timeline, I think maybe we talked about it at the time or whatever. Here we go. You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. So there were some tweets that came up. So okay, I think it started on the flank, and there was some talk about effectively leadership styles because Crimsix was getting talked about the Hook situation and why Hook had ended up leaving Dallas Empire. And Crim was kind of saying, look, the way I like to handle criticism is like, you know, I'll give you the criticism as is. I'm not afraid to say it as it is. And if you don't take it in the way that I would take it, then like that's on you. And like, you know, you're not fitting into the culture, whatever, right? And there was a pretty interesting exchange between yourself and Crim where you came back and said, well, you know, the science doesn't necessarily point to that. Like certain players respond differently to different levels of criticism. You could do this, you could do that. And Crim says, look, well, I've got X amount of years experience playing COD. Who the hell are you? You went to champs one time. You know, it was kind of funny. But, you know,
Twice.
of course, now you're going to be, wait, say that again?
Twice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you put the spice
Twice,
emoji in the title, you know how it goes. Of course, now you're going to be his coach, which is funny. But yeah, like how, like obviously you've got a solid understanding on like the scientific literature, which is really cool because I think that's probably few and far between in esports in general as it is. But and yeah, like how best to encourage teammates adapting to different personality types. Is that something you're thinking of bringing in? Like, I imagine, I don't know, have you and Crimsix kind of smoothed that over yet, or is it just something you're going to work out as you go along?
No, we have. We've smoothed out like a long time ago. You know, what I'm creating, the way I'm doing things with my co-coaches, with Bobble, with JP, includes the team. You know, we're doing things together. We're going to be brothers through this. We're going to be an actual team. You know, we're going to do it for each other, and with each other's help, you know, we're creating everything at New York, and you know, everything's been smoothed over. Like, there's no bad blood or anything. The point he was trying to get across was essentially the same as mine. He just likes to troll. Right, he said that he just likes to troll. Okay, you know, after the first reply, he was trolling me the entire way through. So we're on the same page with everything. You know, me and him are really similar in a lot of regards. What we like, to, you know, hobbies and how we look at the game, and you know, our thoughts for the team, and all these, you know, all the extras. He's just won 39, 30, you know, 38 championships, and I haven't. That's the only
Yeah, that's the
difference.
only, yeah, it's exactly, yeah. Yeah, precisely.
That's one thing with Crim though, is like he'll tell you exactly how he sees it and how he feels. He's not gonna say something behind your back or anything. He'll just say it right to you, which is like, you know, sometimes he has like that shock effect, but at least like I would almost rather have that than, you know, at least
Absolutely.
he like tells you exactly how he feels
I'd
than like
rather.
bottling in or saying it behind.
Yeah, I'd rather have that than, you know, what some franchises had last season, where everyone's in team speaks talking smack about each other. Where's the brotherhood? Where's the team aspect in that? So
Yeah, that's one thing you won't have to worry about is building that with him and Clay. Like they're already gonna be on top of that right off the rip.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the thing, right? So where before we talk about some of the other chaos that's happened this week, it'd be great to kind of finish off this New York discussion with, I guess, like some sort of talk about power rankings. We like to do this with our guests because, and things have also kind of switched up a bit with the Florida stuff we're going to talk about. But of course, like right now, it's tough to look past FaZe Ultra for top one, top two. I think some people have been saying that, oh, Ultra going to be as good, which is a valid question. But of course, like there's plenty of incredible teams being formed. We saw yesterday the Flank kind of did their tier list and they kind of had FaZe, Ultra, then OpTic in kind of A tier, and then kind of New York, Minnesota, and both LA teams in the B tier as kind of teams that have potential to win a championship, but aren't maybe as good as the other ones. So I thought it was a relatively fair list on the whole. But of course, what are your kind of expectations going in? Like, are you gonna? I mean, obviously, you don't really want to rank yourselves because the karma and all this type of stuff. But there's an element of, are you gonna put yourself top 3? Because from my perspective, I think things might take a little bit of time to get going with this team and get everything on the same page. But once that happens, I have really high hopes and expectations. Someone DM me, I probably mentioned this last week or so, but someone DM me a while ago saying, like, who's your early pick to win 2022 champs? And I said New York, just kind of a nice little dark horse pick. But I thought that as the season progresses, you guys are going to get scarier and scarier. So if I had to do the power rankings based on how I think the teams are going to look at the end of the year, you guys are for sure top 3. Maybe not for me at the start, but it's an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a really boring answer. First of all, it's Clay and Crim. I don't need to say anything else. They are some of the greatest players of all time, so do not count them out. Secondly, all of that power rankings and predictions is all outside noise. I'm not bothered by it. I don't care about it. All I care about is creating a process, an optimized process for my players where we can have this standard of excellence and we can win. That's it.
That's certainly fair enough. I think that's a nice way of looking at it. Block out all the noise, create the system, and then the results flow from that.
Yeah.
I guess you kind of can feel that a little bit with how the FaZe team was formed last year, Austin, because of course it's not just about talent, but it's also about the consistency and like the process of how things go. And I'm sure that guys like DREAL and others are going to be studying how you guys approach games and practice and stuff like this and try to improve on that. And it's going to be a nice period of progression within COD and esports in general, probably over the next few years. You're on mute, I think. You've done a
Well,
TacticalRab.
yeah, there we go. But if you take a look at like pretty much the last 2 years of the CDL, each team has had like really good moments. You think of like Florida Black and Cold War, 100 Thieves have had, or like LA Thieves had a good run for a little bit during their one stage. Toronto's had a bunch of success last year. But in reality, like it seems like a lot of these teams have like their own like little era where they have like a couple of good like months or two, and then they hit a stumbling block, right? And like that's where like it's a make or break, and like some teams can stay there and find that consistency and build past it, and some don't. And like I think like talent is all, you're always gonna have the talent that could build you like championship contending teams, but to be good the entire season, to be good when it matters, to be good like when the pressure is down, like you need a system to fall back on. So having a coach that's like solely focused on making sure that system, the foundation's in place, making sure that the players trust each other, because trust isn't like really talked about in Call of Duty, but like trust is like one of the most important things, because if you have a player whose sole objective on the map, like let's say like Checkmate, is to watch the lane, the P4 lane, and like that is his sole job, but one of the players doesn't trust him to hold that by himself and is kind of cheating over, well then that player is not doing their job correctly, and it compounds and it fractures the whole team off of just one second guess of your teammate. So having that system to fall back on is crucial to beating the best teams consistently and to always finding yourself in a championship contending like moment. And a lot of teams struggle to build that. I've heard from multiple teams that like they felt like they didn't have that. As soon as something bad happened to them, they plummeted, right? And obviously you can look at the teams in the last 2 years and see which results have plummeted when they face adversity. And sometimes it's not on the players, sometimes it's not on the coaches, sometimes it just is what it is. But if you have that system to fall back on, it like eases pressure on everybody, and it's something that will really make you rebound and find success just as fast. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that quote. It's like you don't rise to the level of your, I don't know what it is. You probably know this, Joel. You don't rise to the level of something or other. You fall to the level of your preparation, basically. That's what it is. Rise to the level of expectation, maybe, but fall to the level of something like that. I don't know. It's a nice quote that says like, yeah, you're not going to perform
Keep
as
your
good as
floor
you
high.
dream you're going to be, but you're gonna, when the chips are down, you're going to play as well as you're prepared to be. So that's the key. That was a really good discussion. There's also plenty else happening in COD, and we can't avoid it. So this happens. Well, it started coming out last night. I heard about the possibility of this a few days ago. I didn't buy it, but apparently it's true. So the Washington spot that was meant to come through, that of course being Method, TJ, Vivid, and Paul X was the rumored roster that has seemingly fallen through, and now we don't know what's going on because the situation effectively is that NRG have the OpTic Chicago spot, at least as far as we understand, and that's the merger is going to go through with OpTic and Envy to form OpTic Dallas. The Dallas Empire disappears, OpTic Chicago disappears, OpTic Dallas is formed, and then that NRG spot has to go somewhere. And we thought it was going to go to Washington, no problems at all. They get it going, and yeah, that's job done. And seemed like that was in the works. Chrome was saying it's 100% done, set in stone, they're ready to go. So really strange that all of a sudden they seem to be out of there. And that raises the question, right? Like, okay, first of all, why have they decided to dip late on? Like, there was an article that came out, I think, from Kevin Hitt that says, like, due to the, they realized it was costing a lot of money, but like, I don't know, man. Like, surely you know that going into the month plus of negotiations that you've had getting this sorted. So I'm not exactly sure what the reason is why they've decided to pull out or had to pull out or whatever. But there's just so many angles on this, right? Because it's like, okay, could we have an 11-team league? Is that even a possibility? You've got like, who's actually going to buy the spots? If like, are there any suitors willing to do it? Could they make it work? And of course, the other angle is where it leaves the guys that were meant to be on that squad. So I guess I'll throw it to you, DREAL, first, because I think it came as a surprise to a lot of us that this was going down. But it's just, it's tough to spin it as a positive.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we don't have a 11-team league, honestly. I think that would be really bad. And I feel really bad for Methods. I'm a big fan of Methods personally. And I hope another franchise comes in and gets a spot, whatever the rumor may be. And I hope there is, and I hope he does land on that.
Yeah, right now there's a Dexerto article that came out. I think it was either Dexerto or it was the Kevin Hill article that said that they expect to have news possibly as soon as next week, whether who's buying it. So it sounds like it sounds optimistic. So I'm trying to remain as optimistic as possible. I actually don't blame Washington. I don't even know any of the details. I just don't blame Washington because think about starting a whole entire business after the game even drops. You have to start a brand. You have to build out your management. You have to build out your coaching staff. You have to build out the roster. All the 11 other teams already have that, right? So it's like it kind of sucks to be in that position. So if they are just banking on coming in down the line and starting, it because like if you think about it, the Overwatch teams when they came in on the expansion, I believe they came in during the middle of the season. Like they got announced, so they were able to build out their management, their brand, and get that foundation down before the off season started. And then they were able to recruit and build their coaching staffs and stuff like that. So maybe that's what it was. I really don't think the monetary value scared them because there was a Jacob Wolf and Crone article that said like Washington was interested, I believe, at the beginning of year one. So if they were so interested then, they're so interested in this spot, why would the monetary value scare them now when like it was at the final hurdle? So obviously there's a lot of questions, but I definitely think like, at the end of the day, the CDL has a lot of great people running it. They'll find a way to find a solution. Obviously, Energy doesn't want to be in this position where they're like having to do this last second. And for anyone thinking we will have 11 teams, like that's not good for anyone involved. That's not good for Energy. That's not good for the league. That's not good for anyone. No owners. So I definitely think that like that's not going to happen, and we'll be set. But we just have to hopefully find out some of the details and just address it, and hopefully we have a positive future during year 3.
Yeah, I agree. It's really kind of tough to say. Like, I guess we can speculate a bit on who the potential buyer could be because we know there's other orgs interested. But I agree with your perspective on like it's just not a good time to enter. Like, it's a good time to enter the league, you could say, but it's not a good time of the year. As in, it's November. The game comes out in 2 days, arguably tomorrow if you're in certain time zones, and you've still got to figure out Like, okay, what's your team going to be? Get them all signed. As you say, management staff, building up a brand, the Twitter has to get up and running. Like, there's so much to figure out. And that's the thing, like, we would all love, we don't know what the format's going to be for the year. We'd all love, like, an event in December, like, you know, crack on with the season nice and early. The reality is that there's just no time to turn this around. We don't know when OpTic Dallas is getting confirmed. We have no idea what's going on there. Rumor had it was going to be before the end of October. That hasn't happened. It's now in November. Last year, the name change was confirmed, and Los Angeles Thieves was confirmed about 10 days from now. This time last year is about, I don't know, 11th, 12th, 13th of November or something. So I don't know what happens, but that was also basically the same time that the game dropped last year. And it wouldn't be good to delay it too long after the launch of the game. So I don't really know, like, what organization could, if the Kevin Hood article is correct and there's some other suitor that might come in and get this ready to go, because let's be honest, like, even though we'll talk about Vivid to Florida in a second, but clearly there are some other, there still are players right there, like you mentioned, Methods, DREAL, right, as, you know, if he doesn't get a spot because the new team that comes in doesn't pick him up, he's probably just going to retire and go to content. That's probably just how it's going to be. And you got Paul X, TJ, like there's still other guys on the market you could pick up. So if another org does come in, I mean, as you know, maybe a Rise, we know that Cloud9 might potentially be interested, maybe not now, but down the line, they've been hinting about it. Complexity, we know Tim the Tapman wants one, but they probably want Dallas, right? And that's not going to happen. So you know, Dr. Disrespect, I don't know. There's a lot of names that have been in discussion for expansion. Whether any of them could turn it around rapid fire like this and make it happen is tough to say when the game launches in 2 days, to be honest, Austin.
Yeah, so I mean, the safest bet would be an Overwatch team or a team that was interested at the beginning of season 1. And you know, at the time, those rumors of like Rise, E United, Heretics. So like that's a safe bet there, or an Owl team. I will say, like, just to touch on the buy-in. So, you know, the earnings report for Activision just came out a couple weeks ago. They made 1.2 billion dollars within 3 months, July to September, right? Now, for this league, like a lot of people like are saying like, yeah, you're paying 25 million to get into a Call of Duty league. Well, that's not necessarily the whole picture, right? You're paying 25 million you're basically betting on the future of Call of Duty, right? And like other esports such as Rocket League, Rainbow Six, PUBG, right? All these orgs are racing to get into that because what they do so well is they have in-game items that orgs can make money off of, right? So a lot of these orgs and investors are looking at, okay, like Call of Duty is making $1.2 billion off of microtransactions in 3 months, right? And that's not just Call of Duty. That's you know, Candy Crush, that's COD Mobile, that's everything, right? But just imagine now that these franchises in, you know, a couple of years are able to put in their own in-game packs into the market, right? And let's say they only get 50% of that, right? Activision gets 50, the orgs get 50, right? Now, let's say like a team like our team or 100 Thieves can have their content creators market that and push that, and the orgs make money from that, right? People will be making their buy-ins back within like they would make it back really fast, right? So that's what people are basically hedging their bets on, is that they'll be able to monetize their franchises within Call of Duty, and that's where they'll make their money, right? So like that's why, like, I see the $25 million buy-in, and I'm like, well, they're not buying into a league. It's not just like the League of Legends, right? It's not like you're just buying into that league. You're buying in to the hope that you can monetize your franchise within Call of Duty, within Warzone, within the microtransactions, within the multiplayer, within COD Mobile, and you're able to make back your money that way, because that is truly the future. Once we get that, you get co-streaming, you get crowdfunding. You know, prize pools, like a lot of people just don't see the whole picture and like what the orgs want to get out of it. So a team like Rise is like really smart. United, like they realize that they can bring their brands in and like promote it and grow it really well, like 100 Thieves did, like what FaZe has been doing, what OpTic has succeeded at, and grow their fan base. And then when they're able to monetize it, really push it hard, and you're gonna make your money back very quickly, right? So that's how these organizations are, one, going to make money based off the microtransactions if they're able to do that, and then two, that's going to make your brands that you created in the esport more valuable. So you'll be able to flip that, just as an NFL team could sell tomorrow and make millions off that transaction. So that's why I like, it's kind of hard to say that without like, I don't know. It's really hard to explain that, but like there are other things that you're buying into. You're not just buying into the franchise, right? So um, I think there's tons of people that see that potential revenue, right? I mean, if Activision's making $5 billion a year off microtransactions, and then you have to add in game sales, and then you're adding in DLC, and then you're adding in, you just start throwing in so much more, and you know, people see that potential to make just crazy amounts of money. So, um, you know, I do hope like we get a stable organization that comes in, because we have had some, lack of stability, especially across some of our favorite teams in the league. So having someone that comes in and has that stability, and then we can bring in more orgs in the future as an expansion that can come in, that can be announced during the season and bring that stability. I really hope we see that. But I do hope we see like one of the fan favorites from in the past, whether it's like United, Rise, or Heretics. Like I really hope we see one of those three teams able to get this spot
Yeah.
going into at least next year.
I just want to say I think you're completely spot on. It is a long-term investment, and I've read the SEC filings for Activision's earnings. Their monthly users are increasing for Call of Duty. Their sales are increasing for Call of Duty. People are saying Call of Duty is dying. It's far from dying. It's increasing. Now the question is, how are we going to translate the casual fan base to competitive? Now that's the biggest question, because if you can do that successfully, then you can, you'll see an increase in, figures and streaming stats or whatever it may be. To say COD is dying or whatever, it isn't true. And if they can figure out how to, transition the casual player base to competitive, then I think the CDL will be completely fine.
Yeah, if anything, people should be more bullish now because
Exactly.
in like, if you think about it, like what was the best year for competitive, right? You probably can say Black Ops 3, you can say AW, right? And the potential to monetize any of that back then was almost nil. Like you had to basically monetize when the game dropped and around Christmas, so that's when the largest player base is, right? But now that we have Warzone, you have a consistent millions of people playing the game year round that are excited just to sign in and play, right? And because it's the same engine now, right? It's going to be the same sliding, it's going to be the same jumping and movement. That's fucking wonderful, right? And not only can you monetize within Warzone, because I really, really think you're going to start seeing more orgs pick up Warzone streamers, right? Because what I really think the CDL should be doing, if they're not already planning it, is have Warzone show matches around these tournaments, right? Have your favorite streamers, like have like all the 100 Thieves guys, all the Envy guys, all the FaZe guys get automatically invited to these show matches with the pro players, right? So then you have a bridge between the two communities, right? And I think like the more interaction we have between the two, only going to make it better. So a lot of people like I really think orgs are going to start looking at more content creators in Warzone. So you're going to have like, basically what New York's done a really good job of that. I think Dallas or Minnesota's got Blast, right? I think Dallas has picked up a couple of people, but I think you're going to see organizations with like 5 or 6 Warzone streamers, a pro team, content creators. So when they are able to monetize, like they're able to monetize with everyone as a unit, as like a family, and you're able to really blend in, competitive multiplayer Warzone, mobile gaming like New York's been doing, and really drive it home. So it's just something that we have to wait. It's not going to come this year. COVID really fucked it. But it's not. I mean, if just imagine if COVID wasn't around. Like this is year 3. This is probably when everything's going to start going crazy. But with COVID, with it happening, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, like like what the CDL is now is going to look drastically different because it's gonna keep improving. They're gonna keep bringing everything in. You're gonna get co-streaming eventually. It's gotta come. It's gotta be down the pipeline soon. You're gonna get crowdfunding because it's just prints money. Like there's just a lot of stuff that they're gonna like start learning from other esports, bringing it in, and it's gonna just keep taking off because at the end of the day, we have the most potential for revenue for these franchises, the most like one of the highest player bases. It's just Call of Duty has so many high things. It's just the CDL is going to have to grow. It can't just stay stagnant forever. So if everyone should be excited for the future, just my opinion.
No, I mean, I agree with that take for sure. I think that like it's the in-game stuff that really takes things to a next level. Like the only concern, I guess, is missing the boat on the Warzone side, because eventually people move over to other games and something else comes along that's I think Warzone honestly is going to be around for a really long time, because Call of Duty is such a mainstay of just culture in general that it's not going anywhere. But as long as they keep up to date on it, and obviously it's making them an obscene amount of cash. But it just kind of like people, there was talk today about it was 7 years ago today that Advanced Warfare came out, and I was like, geez, I'm getting on a bit for sure. But also, that game was like the first game to actually properly have these kind of in-game items, right? When you have like the OpTic exosuit thing and the denial one and the other ones in the game, and it's stuff like that that like if you make the CDL team skins the sickest skins in the game, and then you let everyone have them, everyone's going to be running around the Warzone lobbies with these skins, and they're going to have more meaning than just that. And the amount of impact it makes when like some of the Warzone guys are playing with like some of the Call of Duty pros, and then they start watching the COD Pro stream, and then they start playing practice on Vanguard in multiplayer. It's like, damn, what is this hardpoint thing? It's like, you know, it all moves in the right direction, but I can't see it as it's only a negative if the CDL is not in a good spot and they decide it's actually more profitable just to go all in on Warzone, which I don't think will be the case, because fact of the matter is that competitive
Arena shooters.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Warzone, frankly, is just like a pub game, and obviously it's played competitively, but it's not particularly competitive. And competitive, actually playing a game on a competitive level, like the CDL, is what I think keeps games, increases the longevity of games. Let's just say over multiple years. There's a reason why Counter-Strike's still the best esport in the world, and it's not really changed much in the last 20 years, right? Because it's just such a mainstay, and it's perfectly tuned for competitive. So, yeah, we had a good discussion there. Let's get back on track real quick, because
One more thing.
go on, Austin.
Like, can you imagine if you could even go off track so it's not just your brand? Because like imagine, I don't know if you guys ever remember, but in Ghosts we had the weed camo,
Watching
and we
Pine
had
Park, so
Snoop
you're
Dogg.
thinking?
Yeah, do you
Yeah, I
remember?
remember the Snoop
Snoop
Dogg
Dogg could
one,
be like the
for
voiceover?
sure.
So just imagine now that OpTic, because obviously hacks with Pine Park, comes out with a weed-ish like camo and operator pack, and they were able to like hire like Snoop Dogg to have like a voiceover. Yeah, the full
Man,
shizzle. That was, but just imagine how like creative orgs can get with like their packs, and then how much money that could bring if it's just. Like, it doesn't have
oh
to be
man.
just their logo everywhere. It could have a logo with a bunch of weed symbols, or like just like anything. You could have like anything, and it could bet it would do so good. It just I think Warzone also like caught people off guard because it just like blew up one day. But they just have to get creative with it, and there's like endless amount of potential in it. But we're good now.
It's all
Here's my
good, Austin.
tangent.
I know. Yeah, I mean, you're passionate about this. It's good. You have a lot of great takes. I hope the CDL are listening. That's all I'll say. Okay. So just to finish off with, because we kind of touched on how disappointing this is, and really just how badly, to be honest, like Methods, Paul, TJ, and Vivid kind of got screwed over in this situation. But Vivid is actually probably coming out of it quite nicely, because the rumor has it he's going to Florida, and the question to me was, okay, apparently Yeez, who's their substitute, is now going to be gone. And if anything, he got screwed over more than a lot of people, because he's kind of been signed to Florida even before the season ended, was getting ready to go for the new year. I thought for sure he'd get an opportunity at some point on the starting team. I kind of predicted within like a month or two he'll be on the starting roster. But seemingly not going to be the case. And now he's got to figure out, well, all the players I wanted to play with in challenges have already got a team sorted. So really tough for him. But I was thinking, okay, if Vivid does come into this team, which already kind of shakes up what people are thinking about power rankings, because a lot of people said that like they should have got Vivid anyway. People were like, look, Florida, come on. If there's a decent SMG on the market, you should be picking him up. Vivid's your man. They didn't want to do that for whatever reason. And Vivid became a unrestricted free agent from Dallas Empire, so I'm sure that swayed their decision to some degree, because I'm pretty sure his buyout was quite hefty. But however the situation's gone down, seems like Vivid to Florida is a thing. And I thought that the sensible move here might be to say, okay, look, we had this idea that Awakening is going to run a sub, but, now Vivid's here, like, let's just bring in Vivid as the sub alongside Havoc, put Awakening back on the flex, Skies as the main, let's give that a go. Instead, Havoc did a tweet that basically said, I'm at the airport and I can't believe he didn't say it outright, but basically just said I've been dropped while he was at the airport, ready to catch his flight, probably to go and like meet the team or something. Mind-blowing scene. So Havoc is dropped. He's going to be in Challengers, I think, as their sub. And Vivid's going to be in the team, I guess, in place of Havoc, which means Vivid and Awakening as the SMGs, Dav Paddy, I don't know, and Skies as the ARs. So it's like, what are you thinking? I mean, yes, good job you've got Vivid, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, DREAL, because it just seems like you've been kind of blessed with this opportunity to pick up Vivid with Washington disappearing, and you're still making what I would say is kind of a questionable roster move, especially because Havoc is now 2 years in a row he gets dropped before the game even comes out or before the season even starts, which is it's tough for him.
Yeah, I think that's just the nature of the sport in any sport. And I think getting Vivid was the right call. What I'm not a fan of, and I think this is incredibly bad form from my opinion, is Yeez. I think you keep him on the roster regardless. I don't know what the rules are, whether you can have two subs or not. Can you? Right, you can.
I think you can, yeah.
Keep him on that roster. I think that's incredibly bad for the franchise image. You know, your culture and your values. If you've just got Yeez before the season's began, you've locked him down. What was it, 4 or 5 months ago, and then you drop him, release him. I think that's incredibly poor from them. But I do understand the Vivid pickup, and I think it's a good one.
I mean, to
I
be
don't know
fair,
why
they kind of, yeah. No, go on, Austin. Then I'll
I don't
go.
know why they didn't keep Yeez to begin with, because like I like to preach that you should be addressing your roster issues before the season even starts, right? And you look at that roster, what is the clear issue on that roster, right? Yeah, I think everyone can point out that like they don't really have the well-known SMGs that most rosters do, right? Obviously, if reports going out from the betas that it could be a 3 SMG game, right? You know, obviously they're going to have Dav Patty be the main AR, which puts Skies in a flex, which we really haven't seen. And I honestly, I don't know about that because I really love Caesar in a main AR. And then you have Wake on a full-time SMG, even though he's looked at his best as a flex. But on the maps where he had to run the SMG in Cold War, it was not great. It was not great. And you know, he was always at his best in Modern Warfare on the M4 as well. So I think like if you're the GM addressing your issues, you see that the issues could be, I'm not saying like coming in, Awakening could be amazing on the SMG, but they could have issues at the SMG role, not in the AR role, right? So I would want to have as many SMG substitutes as I can, and especially one that's like Yeez, who's considered one of the better SMGs in the Challengers market. So yes, having Vivid in the roster, obviously that I would make the same call every day of the week, right? Like Vivid is a key guy in this league, slots right in, perfect, right? But then I would rather have Havoc and Yeez on my bench just in case I need one of them to trial in as an SMG on my roster. But you know, I don't know if, I mean, obviously the contracts are different this year and how that operates. So I do hope you know, Yeez gets an opportunity. Obviously he's on the challenger team with HECZ, which I think is amazing, but I do hope that Yeez gets an opportunity to at least be a substitute for another roster in the CDL.
Yeah, I agree on that front. It seems like Lionman's joined us. We'd love to see it. I don't know if he's on the
seem like that.
but you should be able to hear him at least. So fantastic stuff. Welcome to the gang. We're having a good time.
What's happening?
Well, we're discussing Florida right now, and Vivid potentially joining their team and seeing how things go. And the point I was going to make, Austin, because I think you're right on the money, really, is that, like, okay, they made the call. They were like, all right, Awakening, we're going to try him as an SMG. But I agree with DREAL, like, that dropping Yeez is just, especially as Novus is saying in the chat, the fact that they did a load of content, to be fair to Florida, before the season even began, and a lot of it was with Yeez in, and now they're just going to drop him on his back. It just feels really tough, and I agree, right, that like the end of the day, the clear weakness is in the SMG line. You brought Yeez in for a reason, and now he's gone. It's like, I mean, you know what Havoc's capable of. You don't necessarily know what Yeez is capable of. So, yeah, I don't know if you had any thoughts on that line, just as you joined us.
It kind of reminds me of the Neptune situation last year when he came in late, right before the season started, overtaking Havoc, and then getting the opportunity and showing his ability. And I feel like that's just unfortunate for Yeez because he deserved the chance at least. especially because Havoc last year didn't really have the best year, and we don't know what to expect from him this year. So I think giving that player from Challengers a shot would have been worth it. But getting Vivid, is Vivid coming in because of the Washington situation? Yeah.
It seems that way, yeah.
Ah,
Absolute madness. Well, we've been going for about an hour or so. We're gonna dive into Vanguard real quick for the last 15 minutes or so before we close things out, because Vanguard releases in a couple of days. It's not too often we do an episode just before the game gets released. There's been a lot of talk about it, a lot of expectations. In fairness, the last few days, there's been quite a lot of things that point in a good direction, which I'm happy about. Firstly, I'd like to get your thoughts, Drill, on how you kind of feel the meta might potentially play out here, because some people are, one of the concerns about the New York roster is that, okay, if it's a 3 SMG meta and Crim has to run the flex, is that perfect for them? Maybe not. Like, I think Crim can do it and be solid and serviceable in that role, but maybe he's not going to be quite as comfortable as he would be if he could be a fast-paced AR. So there's kind of that question going into play. Maybe a 2 SMG, 2 AR meta is more ideal for you guys, but I'm sure you can be adaptable. But yeah, do you really have any thoughts on how you think that might play out in this title? But obviously it's tough to say.
It is definitely tough to say. I think it does change going from the beta to the actual game. The metas, I think, will change, but Crim is the greatest player of all time. He will adapt, no problem, no issues. No matter the meta, no matter what it is, we'll adapt and we'll just continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what you were thinking, Austin, like, because from your perspective, it doesn't really matter. Like, your boy's can run whatever. But yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, like the MP40, the STG were kind of the dominant weapons in the beta, and I agree, Drill. Like, a lot of the time, they'll take one of those and they'll make some, let's just say, tweaks that maybe sometimes are more than tweaks, where things become, the balance changes a little bit, right? So, and then things that change over time anyway. And generally, as the game progresses, people find ways to play quicker. Like, you'll often see at the start of the title, maybe 2 ARs, and then over time, it becomes more 3 SMGs. So, yeah, tough to say.
yeah. I feel like,
Yeah.
especially with Sledgehammer. Oh, sorry, Austin.
No, you're good.
With Sledgehammer's history, it's like AW, they started with the bow, most dominant gun. And then in World War II, it was the bar. And it's like they always have these like overpowered
bar,
weapons
man.
at the start of the game that then become more like secondary weapons. But yeah, I'm just kind of unsure of where the meta is going to be because, yeah, they seem to patch quite a lot, especially from beta to the actual game.
FG42, baby.
Mm.
That's the weapon
That's
right there.
100% correct, though. These guys are usually really active and switching the meta a lot. And honestly, who would be one of the key players that you think would be able to adapt quickly? And that's usually like Clay and Crim. Like, they're usually pretty active in that. Also, Lion, I think you can agree with me. Crim was actually very, very, very good in the flex role during the OpTic Dynasty, during the Cole Dynasty. He
Yep.
was known as like that more really flexible player, fill any role, play any weapon. And in World War II, he was actually using that aggressive AR and like very, very good at that role. So
Yeah.
I'm actually excited to see him on the SMG at times. I'm excited because even in Modern Warfare, I think him and Clay would like pull out MP5s with red dot sights and use that as an AR. I just remember that on Hackney. And so those guys are really creative. They're really flexible. So I'm not too worried about seeing Crim on an SMG. So I'm actually more
Yeah.
excited for that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits, Drill, of working with a guy like Clay, because Clay especially, and Crimsix to a degree as well, but I think Clay ticks all the boxes you were just saying with. He tries to innovate as much as possible. Like, anything that's in the game, Clay will give it a go and see if it's possible to be used to a competitive advantage. Not many other players will do that. We know the whole M1 Garand thing that happened during World War II, but like there was a lot of that, right, where different weapons were being tried, and maybe something which wasn't meta that you can kind of keep in the back pocket, pull out at champs. I mean, we saw it a few times. That can always work to the advantage, especially with, as we were kind of saying, Drill, about the changes that Sledgehammer do quite often like to make. Like, the meta will switch up quite often. There might be some hidden patches that come in and a weapon becomes viable, or even on a certain hard point on a certain rotation, that if you're paying attention to that, it wins you a key gunfight, that wins you a map 250, 249, right? Like, these things happen.
Just the smallest changes, right, to get the smallest advantage. That's all it is. And again, we don't care about the meta. Whatever the meta is, we'll get on with it and we'll just keep grinding. we can't control the meta, right? So there's just no point sort of stressing over it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So, some of the other things that we saw on the Vanguard front, some kind of positive sides. Firstly, Dead Silence being a perk, that is a massive doubly in the Sledgehammer books as far as I'm concerned. There were concerns it was just going to be how it was in Modern Warfare, where you have to camp in a corner for a minute and a half until you've got Dead Silence, you can go and make a play. Like, miss me with that, let's just say. Like, and also, the way they described it was actually probably the best we've had in COD for a very long time, in at least the way they described the footsteps, because they said that Ninja is dead silent all the time. They said that if you're ADSing or you're crouch walking, you're also going to be silent even if you don't have the perk, which is something which is like, this is such a no-brainer. If you're trying to be quiet, at least make me quiet. Like in Modern Warfare, you could be literally crouch walking up behind a camper and still get heard. And even actually quite like crouch walking was as loud as walking pretty much in Modern Warfare. It was completely absurd. It probably still is in Warzone, but I don't play any of that. Just not good for competitive because you want people to rely on their awareness and their minimap knowledge and their game sense rather than just a sound cue and don't even have to think about the guy coming behind them because they know they're going to just hear him anyway. Like, you should have to, it definitely reduces the skill gap in that sense. So that's a big positive. There's also the positive of like ranked play being worked on by Treyarch seemingly. So apparently that's probably going to come earlier than it would have done otherwise. That's a good thing, especially when they were talking about visible skill ranks, which sounds like ELO system, might not be, but kind of sounds like it. Of course, Treyarch, in fairness, haven't really done as good a job as Sledgehammer did in World War II, but at least if they're kind of combining their efforts here, then it could come out hopefully quite soon after launch, and hopefully with a system very similar to World War II. So there's a couple of things that are making a lot of people really excited about this game that's dropping just tomorrow, Austin. Pretty much. You're on me again.
Did you see that Vandahar after the Black Ops 4 one, or not
Yes.
Black Ops 4, the Cold War one released? He said he didn't realize that people really, really wanted an ELO system, right? And then it was like kind of like it clicked. So like I really think like if they're helping contribute in this next one, we're gonna get something more like ELO and less like whatever you want to call the Black Ops 4 method. So I'm actually really excited because you see like the leaks about Warzone getting a ranked. You see like Call of Duty was actually really excited to throw out that there's going to be a ranked mode in multiplayer. Like it just seems like they finally got it. Like they finally like realized that that's something like the community really wants, as much as that should have been kind of obvious. But like sometimes it takes like a little bit to click in. But I'm actually like this might be the best competitive game we've had and since Black Ops 3, like since for a while. Like I have so much hope for this next game. It's ridiculous. As long as we don't get squad spawns, this could be one of the best games we've had in the history of Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's strange that. Oh, you can go for it, bro.
No, you go.
It's strange that this year it's like we're less concerned about the game. Like the game looks super positive. It's more the outside, the CDL, the teams. Like that's the biggest problem this season, which is really strange. I also wanted to touch on: is this the first time that developers are working together to make the best game possible? Because it's awesome seeing Treyarch working on zombies as well, like combining their efforts to make the best game possible. Like I just want to
At
know.
least out of the big devs, like, because there's been Raven and stuff like this, but
Sledgehammer's helped out with a couple.
Yeah, MW.
yeah, but I mean, it's a good point. But between like, yeah, exactly. But between like Sledgehammer, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, it seems like it's probably the first time they've done a collab.
That's sick.
Thank God, because that's what everyone's been calling for. Is like help each other take some off the plate, right? But honestly, Treyarch has been goated. Can you like Treyarch helped with they obviously did Black Ops 4. They did Cold War. They're helping with this one. They're helping with zombies with this one. They're helping with like a bunch of stuff. They're just like really extending themselves across all of it, and it's like they're really underrated with like how much they're actually putting in work with this. Like them and Sledgehammer, just like during this COVID era. I know we're going towards like the tail end of it, but God, damn, these guys have been putting in work. So like, thank God for both of those like companies really grinding and trying to give us the best game possible.
Yeah, they're lifesavers, man.
Sure.
What were we gonna say, D-Rob?
Yeah, I was gonna say this was more on the on the dead silence topic. I might be wrong, but isn't Ninja going to be perk 1 and then dead silence is going to be a field upgrade? So you can
I
potentially,
think so, yeah.
so you can potentially, I don't know, have an idea where you have a different perk 1 and then run dead silence and so on and so on. That'll
Have
be
they
you swap-
confirmed that?
Well, I
So-
don't know if it's confirmed, but like I saw a lot of people saying that dead silence is still going to exist, and then yeah, because people basically said that it's going to replace low profile, which I think was in perk 1, so it will kind of compete with flak jacket in there. So it's quite interesting, right? We don't actually know if there's going to be trophies there, because for example, in like playing a lot of Black Ops 2 lately on Plutonium, you kind of, flak jacket, you don't really need it on an AR class if you chuck a trophy down. So there's kind of that discussion to be had. But yeah, it's an exciting thing to figure out. You've got 2 bites at the dead silence cherry, which is I guess it can't be bad, really.
Do you reckon you can swap class from a ninja class to another one with a different
Oh,
perk
when you got
one?
dead silence,
Yeah.
that'll probably be the meta, actually. Yeah, that's a good
Mm.
point. Multiple classes, you get dead silence, you switch to your flak jacket class, you make a risky play. We're already innovating here at the Breaking Point podcast. You love to see it. Cool. So the other part of it, just to pretty much finish off the episode with, is the third game mode question, which has been quite a significant question because Call of Duty came out. They said what are going to be the game modes. They went through. I'm pretty sure there's 7 of them. The classics: hardpoint search, TDM, free fall, domination, this type of stuff. Patrol is there. But no mention of, and domination is there, of course, but no mention of the third game modes we've had for the last couple of years. There's no, there's no control, of course. There's no capture the flag as of yet. Now, an article did come out that kind of said some game modes that have been used in competitive are coming after launch. But the problem is, like, how long after launch, right? Like, the game launches, we start playing the game. You've got to play something. If the season goes as it did last year, then there's some sort of kickoff event in January. Like, let's say it takes until mid-December to give us control. I don't know. It's getting a little bit interesting there. So I don't know what we think really about this third game mode, because obviously right now we've got domination, we've got patrol in the game, if that is how it launches without control or CTF, which are kind of the 2 biggest topics in terms of what could be brought in as the third mode. So it's like, okay, please don't give us another year of domination. Like, I couldn't handle it. And then patrol, most people are saying, is probably just terrible for competitive. Like, it's just a hardpoint that moves around the map. The spawns would be chaos. I don't think they'd be readable at all. The pros certainly aren't going to like that if they didn't already not dislike it in the beta. So I don't know what the plan is here. The other question is, Austin, do you just do a third hardpoint, right? If you can't get any other game modes, is it the best solution to just say, okay, we're going to go hardpoint search, or, however it goes, but like hardpoint search, hardpoint search, which I don't like that personally, but it's better than Dom, baby.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see that. Just because the S&D, like, it's a slow-paced mode that's not as exciting at all points, whereas the respawns are what Call of Duty is known for. I'm not as worried about what the third mode is, just because they said competitive modes are coming, which means, in my opinion, that means we'll probably get control, CTF, maybe a gridiron, maybe like stuff that has been in the past. And what they're probably going to do is trial a bunch of them. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Trial a bunch of them, see which ones work the best for the spawn system, see which ones work best for the maps, see what ones work best in the meta, and then decide from there. Because odds are the season's not going to begin until probably nearish of where it started last year. So it gives us time to really address what's going to be the best for competitive for the next 8 months. So I really hope they take their time. We're not going to get Dom. I refuse to believe we're ever going to see Domin again.
The pros are not waiting for that.
This is like, I refuse to believe that that's going to be in. I would rather have a kill confirmed in over that. So I'm actually really excited to see how it comes in, because I do think it will be in pretty quickly. I feel like what they're going to do is wait. They're going to allow everyone to play the new maps. I think that maybe if I was trying to get into the mind of them, they're trying to make people play some of the other modes and tweak the spawn system. So when they drop like control, CTF, like if they have a gridiron, if they have something else like a headquarters or something, the spawn system's more like pinpoint, more predictable. Because I saw they already did that with patrol. They made it so the spawns are readable now, which they said there was like an error in the code. There was something wrong with it where it was random. So now it's more readable is what was in the patch notes. So I do hope like we get like all those modes like within the first month of the game dropping.
Yeah, these guys created Uplink as well. Like they know what they're doing. They brought in Gridiron. They tried it. I think they're gonna try and test things out. And because they are so quick with updates and patching, I think we'll be fine regardless. So yeah, I'm hoping for probably CTF just because it's the safest mode. It's pretty hard to screw up unless you have like bad maps. But yeah,
Well,
we'll
yeah,
see.
we've got a lot to choose from, hopefully.
Yeah, so it should be good.
Thoughts, DREAL?
I'd imagine they'd bring in ranked at the same time. They did mention a small tactical playlist, so I think that would be ranked. That would make sense. Unless they actually do bring in Team Tactical, if you remember that from I think Mod 2.
Yeah,
Imagine
wow.
we get blue balled. That would be funny.
That's a serious throwback right there. Wow, Team Tactical. And it was like, remember people used to play multi-team during Black Ops 2
Yeah.
because it was like 9 people, but
I
just
like
teams of
that.
3. Yeah, you could like that was how people would go for the real high kill gameplays because the team doesn't serial kills as much. That was you could basically play 1v6 TDM if you just get like two your teammates to stand AFK or whatever. Whatever, yeah, exactly. That's pretty cool.
What do you guys think of maybe having like Halo, how they have Slayer? What would you think about a team deathmatch? Because I think that would be quite entertaining, and it is the biggest game mode in COD. Like it would
Did
be
they used
good
to
for
play it way back in like COD 4? Was it not too? I
Mod
feel like
Mod
they
2
used
as
to.
well.
They
It's a
played it for a
campus.
while.
There's
It
no
is?
way it would play well. Like
Because in Halo, the TTK is so high that you can make aggressive plays without the risk. Whereas in Call of Duty, you make one mistake, dead, right? So like it was really, really painfully would rather watch paint slow. They used to
yeah,
play
you
on
legit
Nuketown too, by the
get
way.
a first blood and then you just camp in the spot. I mean,
Yeah.
like I was thinking about. I used to think about this back in like Black Ops 2, what it would look like. Is imagine that there were no GAs, there was nothing banned. You just set up shop, you get your 4 teammates, you get your riot shield down, you put it in the floor, you get your LSAT target finder, you get your trophies, your claymores, you're just sitting up back in spawn, setting up shop, and you just got the firing range, and there's nothing they can do. I guess they can snipe you, to be fair. It would be interesting to see how people would play it, and I'm sure the meta would evolve, but it would not be fun to watch, I don't think.
Yeah.
That's my personal take. It wouldn't play like, although you say how like TDM is like the most casual game I'd go in, which is true, and I like that's usually what I play going into pubs. Like I'm a filthy casual like that. I like TDM, but it wouldn't play how casuals play like
Yeah.
TDM. You know, it's not they would just run around shooting people and stuff. And it'd be interesting, that's for sure. Yeah, exactly. Kill confirmed. Kill confirmed would be more interesting though. Like I think that
Yeah.
actually they could. I don't want to. Yeah, we
But
don't
then
have to go.
they would bait the kill confirm. Like it
Well,
would just
exactly right. It could be there's some tactical depth there. I don't know how the
Because
hell
you
you
got
would
to be
observe it.
aggressive to get it.
yeah.
It'd be so like imagine thinking about observing it, right, or trying to say like which player's gone where because there's no necessity to be together as a team, or like there's no objective here, objective there. You can kind of just do your own thing in a random corner of the map. So I don't know. It probably wouldn't be great. That would be my guess.
It just
Just a
works
thought.
so well in Halo. Like Halo, it's really
Mm.
entertaining. But
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like first to 50, right, or something. Slayer in that or something. When I've
And it
watched it
always
before,
ends
yeah.
like 50-49.
Yeah, exactly. It's always close, yeah, because both teams are good. Yeah, that is always really hype. I gotta give it to them for that one. Yeah, gun game. Okay, if it's comp gun game, sub me in because I'm unreal at gun game. I'll tell you that. Anyway, just wanted to finish off with we got a question in for DREAL a little bit earlier. It just came in from Gersh. I thought it was kind of funny. Thoughts on the announcement video that the New York guys did for you, and he also says City or United because of course the derbies at the weekends.
United, unfortunately. And that
Good
was
man.
that was a crazy video. I couldn't believe it when I first watched it. It was an amazing video.
Got to give it to New York.
Definitely, yeah.
They've killed it. To be fair, their social team is second to none. I'm impressed at the squad they're building, not just the team, but the staff around it, including yourself, of course. Lots of good things to come, I think. Okay, I've got to hydrate real quick. then I'll hide you after we close out the show. Did you breaking point in the chat? So anyway, thanks all for tuning in. Thanks very much, DREAL, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Great to hear your mindset and your thoughts behind everything that's happened. Do you have any words real quick to those watching, New York fans out there who are hoping you can get the best out of the boys?
Yeah, of course. I just want to say thank you for you guys for letting me come on and waffle on a bit. Thank you to New York, everyone at New York, from the owners, including Farzam, to the players and all the staff behind for giving me this opportunity. And thank you for everyone that's supported me on my journey, and for the people that will join me on this journey as well. Welcome.
Love to see it. Austin, thanks for joining us. Lion, quick little stop by, but we've got the rest of the top 20 coming up very soon. And anyway, in a couple of days' time, the game comes out. It's going to be exciting. There's going to be some content going on for sure. We're going to be obviously here this time next week to discuss all the chaos I'm sure that'll have happened over the next week. But also there's all the maps, right? We've got to figure what the competitive maps are, how things are going to be playing for hardpoint, search and destroy, what the good weapons are. Yeah, lots to come at GG Breaking Point. That's the Twitter account you want to follow. But yeah, thanks all for watching. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time.